Mrs. Shuck. Roll call, please.
Mayor Dale Masad.
Present.
Vice Mayor Bill Colombo.
Here.
Councilman Steve O'Neill.
Here.
Councilwoman Nancy Britton.
Here.
Councilman Terrence Rowe.
Here.
City Attorney Joseph Public.
Here.
And City Manager Tom O'Neill.
Here.
Okay, we have approval of the minutes. Did anybody take time to read them?
Yep.
Mr. Crumball, is that,
Yeah, go ahead.
have a motion?
I motion approved.
Do I have a second?
Do we get a second?
Oh, second.
All in favor of approving the minutes?
Aye.
Okay, we have the consent agenda. I had one question to ask. Pat?
Sir,
Are you sure we're really gonna use this thing 24/7 for the drainage?
we're gonna use that a lot.
I'm
Well,
I'll
guys
be
are training
watching.
right
Okay, motion,
Motion approved.
Second.
discussion?
I'm going to go
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
nay.
Announcements from the staff.
I have none at this time.
None? Okay. And I'm gonna hold the general public back. Commissioner Mariano's here. We've been working for some of the drainage on Suncoast Mobile Home Park.
Well, good evening. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk with you, and Mayor, thank you for spending the time with me out in the field, looking about different things in the issue that both the county and the city about what we can actually do to work together to make some improvements. Pleased to report from when we're out there in the field, along the Reese and Springer area where the county owns property, which abuts next to the Salvation Army where it's the city property, I see a possible joint venture coming up. The county has got regularly scheduled maintenance that's gonna happen on Reese, going down to Springer, going across Springer, all the way to 19. So all that is gonna be cleaned out coming up, and it's gonna happen as soon as February. So it's great news that it's gonna get done this quick, but I think there's an opportunity for the city to try to reach out to the county staff, to actually try to get with them about trying to, instead of mobilizing twice, maybe we can mobilize once, work together, and try to find a way to get it done. So if that sounds like a good idea from what we talked about, I thought I'd show that I'm willing to see it happen, and I'd encourage it if we can make a efficient use of government resources every step of the way.
I think it's a great idea, and Tom agrees, so we'll have our shovels out.
Okay? All
Can I
right.
ask
very
a
much.
question, please? Do they still have the lawsuit going against the county, the mobile home park?
That is still going on, and it's gonna take its course wherever it may go. I mean, the flooding that happened, it happened all over the county for all the water was coming in there. I mean, that's flooded out before, whether it floods again or not. Even with this done, I will say this, with the maintenance that'll be done, it'll definitely be a help. So I'm not saying it's gonna be a cure to it, but everything we can do, every pipe that we have in this whole county, we need to fix, clean out as best we can, and this has just happened to be a fortuitous time to actually schedule it, and with all that's going on, again, if we could partner together, just help it out. But, yeah, that is still going on.
Yeah, a couple years back, they cleaned up the drains, and we thought we had it fixed. But then, because of the watershed up there by Magnolia Valley, there's some issues up there. So it really starts there.
Correct. But my feeling is, we clean up everything we can, and frankly, as the end of the line, as it goes out to Warren and Boyce, if we
Right.
clean out that section there, at least the water can flow, and especially on a low tide situation,
Right.
with everything clean, the water can get out quicker, it'll create more storage and
Right.
more going through, so.
I agree, yeah.
Every bit is what we need to do to improve it. And I will say, the county's actually working with Magnolia Valley. I frankly we're gonna see what happens with that, but we're trying to negotiate with them too, but we're trying to look for solutions up there, because that obviously is a big cause of what happens down the stream as well.
And since I have you here, we chatted about Washington Street. Has there been any noise about
I have
Washington?
got great news for Washington Street.
Oh, I hope so, because people are getting ready to start a petition.
No need. It's actually one of the program maintenance directives that's gonna be done, so that will get paved on the county side. So that is
Do you
happening.
have an idea when, so I can tell people?
I don't, but I'll find out and I'll give you a detail.
Okay, appreciate that.
That is coming. I've got a whole bunch of paving things going on, but that was one of them that we did get done, so. For someone who drives that road quite a bit too, that'll be a nice little addition.
Yeah, that and Ridge Road over by Home Depot, bad.
Actually, we're fixing that too. That's another one that's gonna be
Yeah, no,
done.
that and Washington are both in pretty bad shape.
Mr.
Well,
Mayor,
Well, thank you, Jack.
There's a trifecta today.
excuse me, sir, is this discussion on the flooding in the mobile home park area
Yes.
in lieu of item 6 on our agenda?
Yes.
Okay,
I
okay.
just thought
Well, that's fine. I just didn't know if there was time to speak later, or I know Mr. Mariano doesn't necessarily have to wait to the bitter end of the meeting.
We had our meeting all day today, but I
Yeah,
wanted to.
I'm sure you did,
just
sir.
share the good news with you and the opportunity that was there.
Yeah.
Coming from the county.
Of course, there's been a lot of discussion about that particular flooding situation, which is jokingly called like the storm of the century every 2 years. You know, it overflows.
And
now and then.
I will tell you, I've got more pictures, and I had conversations with my staff about other things that I saw around the county that I thought we need to address and address quick. And I'm gonna keep on pushing this envelope,
Well,
but again,
and again, the only thing I would add is that, you know, you're correct. I mean, the drainage ditch, as it were, it comes down around, and actually the easternmost side of that pond, if you will call it that, is actually county property. And so that really is not our water that we're talking about. That's county water, and that's Newport Richey water. So, you know, any help from the county, to me, it's a county flooding issue. But I also believe that we had discussed in previous discussions that the pipes going under Ridge Road were just simply not big enough. They'd been constructed too long ago to handle the amount of water that essentially gravity's trying to shove through them. And that's not something we in the city can do, because it's not our pipes, it's not our road. So, I mean, I would just wonder what your opinion on that was, sir.
I know we're gonna study that issue they're as large as I think they're going to be, so we've gotta kinda deal with it. We just gotta make sure that even the state on the other side keeps every bit of that area flowing as well.
Right, but I mean, it's the weakest link in the chain, so to speak. If it can't get through that pipe, it doesn't matter how clear it is on either side, it's just not gonna go through that pipe.
Well, and I'll tell you, looking at other opportunities that could be out there as well, to the side of the mobile home park, if you go to the south side,
Mhm.
between there and Ocean Honda, there's that big area that's right there. I don't know if there's a possible connection there. We can actually connect that one canal that gets to the butts to them, and maybe connect those up too, to help the water get dispersed better.
Right.
That is something we're gonna look at as
Well,
well.
that's a very interesting idea, yes.
Any and all options.
Yeah. Thank you,
Anybody
sir.
else? I do have a couple of things. I would have told you tomorrow, but I get it over with. The same corporation that owns this mobile home park has a park up on Hudson. If you turn east on Hudson, there's a park there. Apparently, the county put a retention pond in there. When it overflows, it gets them wet. So you might, that was one thing I wanted to,
Okay.
just so I could have your staff look at it. The other thing, what the councilman was talking about, there's a double right angle going under Ridge. And so it may not be that the pipes are too big, but that restricts flow. So just so they know about it, I'm sure they know about it, but that was what the gentleman told me.
So, under Ridge Road itself?
Yes,
There's
sir.
a double?
Yes, sir. This is
Double
dou-
right, and
right next to each
I'd
other.
have to go look at it
Okay.
like we did the other day, but if what we're gonna do is they're gonna fix it, maybe, or just ask them, is this gonna restrict flow too much?
Okay.
And we can go from there. I applaud all your help.
I appreciate you working with me. Thank you very much. Have a great night.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, where did I get?
General public?
General public. Thomas Brown.
Thomas Brown, 7436 Candlelight Court. I would like to apologize to the council members that I offended at the last meeting when I implied that some of them do nothing for the city or the residents in between meetings. I was delighted when some council members and a former council member told me that they do or did a lot for the city and its residents between meetings. I have no knowledge of what they do between council meetings, but judging by the reaction that I got, they may average $4 an hour for the pay they get. Thank you for your time and commitment, especially to the 2 council members that have helped me. At the end of December last year, I asked a question of 8 city officials. I requested a yes or no answer. Only the city clerk responded by advising me that I should ask the question of the building department. Thank you, city clerk, for steering me in a direction where I might get an answer. The question seeking the yes or no answer was, does it violate City of Port Richey code or ordinance when a resident of the city erects a fence on property that the resident does not own? Although I addressed this question to the city clerk, the city manager, the city attorney, the mayor, and the council members, and the building department, I have not received an answer. I went to City Hall this morning to pick up some answers, but there were none. Has anyone done any of the research that I requested at the January 12th meeting? It would have required contacting former Mayor Michael Cox or Pasco County Property Appraiser Mike Wells or University of Florida Gainesville or State of Florida Mapping Department. In turn, the researcher would have learned that the body of water that today is known as Lake Cox formed naturally prior to 1980. This would prove the city manager and the city attorney wrong, and I don't think anyone is anxious to do that. Maybe you should not always do what is right if it will jeopardize your job. Thank you.
Tom, that gentleman in the teal shirt has a website that we found that might help you.
Okay.
And an FDOT. Okay. Who else do I have? Mrs. Spalding. Reverends.
Sandra Spalding, 8207 Old Post Road. Had a brainstorm I want to share with you. It could be a win-win situation. We do want to keep our police, and we have had police for years, but we didn't have as many. And we have to cut down because on the budget they use too much money. Just a thought. We worked with how many police when Vince Lupo was here and the other city managers years ago, when we had more residents, okay? And I know, don't even bring Walmart in because they take care of most everything themselves. And if you want, I will go ask them how many calls and so on and so forth. So we're not talking about that. What I want to do is this. Think about it. I want to share this thought. Why don't we freeze the hiring of the police? Freeze buying more cars. As the police retire, don't fill it in their position. If you're going to promote people, promote it from within. Don't hire other people. And that way we can work down our police department, still have a police department, which the city loves. And we had no major problems with, I think it was 8 policemen. And we had 3,300 people. Now we have 26, 27. And how many policemen do we have today? I don't know, 14 maybe? 15, okay? Why do we need 15 in comparison to 8 when we were very safe in those years? And we still had a 3-minute answer. Between the fire department and the police, there was never a problem. Why have we overgrown our police department when our city is getting less residents, having less residents? Think about it. Freeze your hiring. As the police retire, don't hire. work it down that way. I'm going to leave you with that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in the audience? Okay, I'll bring it to council.
Mr. Mayor, if you could please, I'd like to bring up a subject that's been weighing heavily on my mind for the last couple of weeks, and I think probably a lot of other people's too. During our last CRA meeting, I was quite shocked, and literally shocked, to learn that the CRA paint-up, fix-up funds, grant funds, had been dispersed. And what I considered a very clear instruction from the CRA board not to do so. I have to ask you, Tom, how that happened, why that happened. I don't see it. It went through a lot of people's hands. Obviously, those funds to be dispersed or looked at by our finance director. They're probably looked at, I don't know if our city clerk is involved or our assistant city manager, and certainly yourself in cutting those checks. I just don't understand. If you would please illuminate for me.
Please, please.
Yes, I did report that at the last meeting. I went through the minutes of the budget hearings that were held on September 10 and September 24, and I didn't have any direction that was in the minutes, nor did I have a vote. I want to tell you, it didn't matter to me at all. I mean, as you recall, the first draft budget that we had, I had zero funding in there for the paint-up, fix-up. You can allocate more if you want. However, keep in mind, you know, we are dealing with a deficit situation. I didn't have any direction, as I said, so, you know, unless we change the resolution, you know, I am obliged to operate under the resolution that you passed as a city council and CRA in 2009. I'd be glad to make changes at your direction, but I went back and I reviewed everybody's comments, and we just simply didn't have any direction to change anything. I'd be glad to do it if that's what you want to do.
Mr. O'Neill, I'll have to disagree with you. I thought it was very clear when we spoke, and we had spoken at length about the paint-up, fix-up grant, how we wanted to make some changes to it and possibly modify the method of disbursement with some sort of means testing or whatever, or whether we wanted to go for it at all. But we did vote indeed to fund that line item, but we specifically did put it on hold. And I will have to stand firm with that. And
I respect
I
your
don't understand.
your
I mean, it
comment.
may not be in minutes, but go back to the recordings, and I'm sure you'll find it there. Because I was sitting in that seat, and the words came out of my mouth, Tom. And you know, again,
Yes, sir.
on any given line item in the budget, it doesn't require a vote to change it when we're having budget workshops and budget hearings. We don't have to make a resolution. You know, if we choose to modify a certain line item in the budget, it doesn't require a vote. We'd be here for a month of Sundays if we put every line item in the budget to a vote. So,
Well, I apologize if I misunderstood, and that may be the case. It was an honest misunderstanding, and, you know, where I looked, I didn't see it, and I didn't hear any different recollections from members of the staff. I take responsibility for that. If I screwed up, I did, and we certainly can change it and do as you wish at this point, but I did not hear that at the meeting. Maybe I misunderstood.
I've heard subsequently too that those funds went in a matter of like 3 days or something like that.
Yeah.
They just disappeared, just like that.
I have a listing
So
of any of the
that's-
grants if you'd want to look at it.
I think that would be a good thing to have. I would like to see that sent out to council, absolutely, yes.
Would you like me to put it on a CRA agenda at the next meeting?
If you wish, I mean, at this point, I'm not sure exactly what the point of that would be. That's why I brought it up at a city council meeting, because it had more to do with yourself and council's relationship, which is as city council, which is why you're on CRA with the rest of us. So it doesn't really have to do with the CRA or budget or CRA items in themselves. It's sort of it's more of a managerial issue is why I bring it up. But that's all I have to say about that.
And I'll just say that I did have a few emails to that effect, so We'll leave it at that, Mr. O'Neill.
Yes, well, I got a couple of things, but I'll start out with that as well. You know, as far as the paint fix-up, I do remember having some of those conversations. We did talk about several things in regard to that. Obviously, you know, there wasn't a need to have a vote on that. I think that we had all agreed that this particular program was coming to a close. Look, folks, we can talk about $35,000 if you want to. What we should have been doing is talking about better use of those dollars, because there's no return on investment on those dollars unless you're one of the people, and you folks are more than welcome to take a look at my list. Here are the folks that benefited. I got all the pages, I got all the amounts, I got all the names. Anybody is welcome to look at this. I understand we're talking about $35,000, but to me, the expenditure upwards of, Tom, am I correct, in about $600,000 or a little less in total monies during the years of that program?
I believe it's $638,000.
$638,000, okay? There's a lot of air conditions that took place during that time as well. So, look, there's a lot of things I think, you know, we need to discuss, and I'm not belittling $35,000. By no means is a small amount of money. But I was at that meeting as well. If it was unclear to the manager, it might have been unclear to a few of us, maybe not Bill, maybe not Bill. But the conversation was had, and I think I even remember myself talking about the formula that the former Ed Wench had talked about. Him and I had several conversations about this CRA, and that gentleman felt that those dollars could be better used as well. And look, Sand Pebble got some money. We probably didn't need it, okay? So that's enough of that subject. I am glad to see the Harbor Isles water main moving along. I understand that this directional drill works with a minimal surface disruption, so I hope everything over in that area goes very well. Starting to see a lot of supplies over there. Obviously, that's near where I live. Also, Mayor, I'd like to see, I know we talked about this before, but whether or not you feel that an upcoming agenda, we might look at this red light camera system. I think we've seen some recent articles. We've seen other cities follow suit in some different avenues. It might be something worthy of discussion. I'm just putting that out there. I know we got several things coming out of the gate. One of them we're going to talk about tonight with the police budget. But anyway, look, I'm glad that we had monies available to help people going back to the paint fix-up. I wish we had a lot more money to spend in that particular regard, but I think maybe all of us can agree that that's over. We don't have that money anymore. So that's all I have.
Well, Steve, I almost smile sometimes when you say, well, $35,000 is a lot of money, but we're living on $1.2 million extra. And I'm 100% agree with you, and Tammy, you might want to schedule that, agenda that red light camera, because I'm pretty sure it's going.
Well, I was going to talk about that CRA, but that's been covered. I wasn't happy about it either, but it's spent, and I would like to have a better answer on that because it was very clear. I also would like to mention it's time, I believe, that Pete Schatzel was invited back to give us a financial update. We haven't heard from him in a while. I want to talk about the water main break on 19 that I saw a clip on TV about. And I'm kind of upset because people are calling me and I don't know what to tell them because there was no mention of it in an email. There was no contact made by the city to the council at all, but it's on TV. And I don't know why we didn't get notices out. But I happen to be one of the people up there Saturday night drinking water in that vicinity. And so was my wife. And I take a very dim view of the fact that we didn't notify people. I think it made us look very poor in the public's eye. I think we should come up with a system, a plan, a program, something that is going to take care of that, because it's not just the nice thing to do. I got contacted by someone from Swift Mud. And he stated that it has to be issued via door-to-door. TV, radio, 2 consecutive days of samples have to be taken after results are received, showing samples and resend notices to be delivered. So we need to really get with the program on that one. But aside of that, Saturday was not a nice day. I was driving up and down 19 and I was out for a while myself, and I commend that staff that was working on that break because it was not a nice day to be out there. And they were out there without any windbreak or anything else, working very hard on that thing, trying to get it back into service, and I thank them. And I'm sure the council thanks them, and the people thank them for getting it back in service. Also, I believe this is the time of year that we usually do Tom's review. I think that should be looked at. We should be planning on doing that in the very near future. That's all I have.
May I make a comment? Please.
As Councilman Rowe indicated, we did experience an emergency situation on Saturday evening. It was a bona fide emergency. It was a 10-inch water main that broke, that literally serves almost every area north of the city of Port Richey. The main serves the Westport area, the Brown Acres subdivision, and literally thousands of customers. When we have a small area, we attempt to put door hangers out and notify the people in the immediate area, or the service area where the break is. This main was a major transmission main that served everyone. And we simply have to rely upon the media to help us because we don't have the physical ability to walk all of those doors and put door hangers on and so forth. What we do is very precise and methodical when it comes to a water main break. We experienced the break, and the Public Works and Utilities crews worked on it. Pat was there. I was out of town, but he did notify me. And what we do is the area is excavated. When it is repaired, it's flushed thoroughly, it's disinfected, and then we take bacteriological samples to make sure that the water is safe. There was no reason to believe, nor has there been in the past when we've experienced similar situations, that we actually had a water problem. The tests were done by the Pasco County Laboratory, and we received the results today, and the bacteriological screening indicated that there was no problem with the water supply. It is an inconvenience, it is an emergency, and we simply are trying to do the best we can, and we did a media release at that time, and it was on the Times website, it was on the Tribune, the Suncoast News, and also on Bay News 9 and Channel 10. So hopefully we got the word out as best as we could. I'd love to be able to walk and tell everybody what the problem was, but we just simply don't have enough people. I'd love to do that, but that's what we did. And I didn't catch the last item that you mentioned. Could you repeat? I just couldn't hear you. I'm not sure what it even was. You mentioned something on talking about.
Well, I'm just wondering, did we do the, did we contact the FDEP with the malfunction notice? Has that been done?
I apologize. I'm still having a hard time hearing you.
Okay. The DEP requires a malfunction report. Have we filed that?
Yeah, we filed all the necessary paperwork.
Okay.
Yes, I contacted Gerald Foster at DEP on the evening that it did happen, notified him of the break, and we just notified him again of the clearance.
I'm kind of puzzled that if 10 was notified why they came here the other day and did a reporting on this, it sounded like nobody knew. But that remains to be answered. I would think we have a better way. They mentioned a 911. What about that?
That was talked about yesterday, and we're going to look into that, the reverse 911, to see what we can do on that. And so I'll report back to you on that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Just as a quick comment on that, is not a reverse 911 system sort of an opt-in system? I mean, we just can't go out and automatically get all of our residents' phone numbers. We don't have them, I would not suspect.
Yes, I'm not real familiar with it,
Yeah,
but
that's
I'll
what I'm
look
just
into
saying,
it.
you know, I know a lot of communities have a reverse system for emergency use, but I'm not sure, yeah.
Just as a very brief follow-up comment, I looked at a lot of other utilities, and we follow the exact same procedure that the city of Tampa, Hillsborough County, St. Petersburg. I looked at what they did, and it is a very difficult situation. At the same time that the public works and utility crews are trying as best as they can to get this emergency situation underway and get it taken care of, we're faced with a public notification, and like I say, we do the best we can on it. But every personnel that we had available was working on the break, including Pat. And so it's not easy to get the word out, but we try as best as we can.
One comment on Bacterion. I also didn't know, and people called me. So could we add to the protocol, Council and Mayor? Somebody call them?
Certainly. I'll be glad to do that. Until you tell me to stop. We have a lot of water breaks. And so I don't know if you want to hear about every one of them, but I will be glad to do that.
Don't you generally do that by email? Haven't you sent emails out before on breaks? and
Yes,
stuff?
it depends on the severity of the situation.
Right. But I'm
you
saying
know,
there is a method of communication outside of just
Oh, I
calling.
can email you.
Email isn't gonna get unless you check it all the time. We're not
Well,
gonna know.
I check it all the time.
Yeah.
Email at 3 o'clock in the morning or 2 o'clock, that's asking a lot of somebody. I mean, if there's a lot of water main breaks, people don't work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That's the only issue there. You'd have to get the message the next day.
And the thing, always keep in mind, each of you have my cell phone number, and I've made it a habit to be on my cell phone almost constantly. So if you hear of anything, sometimes I may not know of it. If we have a water main break and it's a minor break, I haven't asked Pat to call me on some of those things. So I'll be glad to notify you in any way that you want, or you also can call me at any time you have a question.
Anybody else? All right, I have a little bone to pick. So, we probably don't want to take this up because it'll take forever. But the Waterfront Overlay District, we have, and Bill, I did check that out, the zoning ordinance or the zoning codes for Waterfront Overlay District are not overridden or even affected by our noise ordinance. And we can have Mr. Public look into that, but it's very clear in the Waterfront Overlay District. Amplified music in unenclosed structures, and it goes on.
Well, if you're gonna read it, read the whole thing. Read that whole section on the sound, if you would, sir.
Unless overridden, is what you're going for.
Mhm.
Unless amplified music in unenclosed structures such as porches, gazebos, decks, verandas, or other partially enclosed or open air areas, unless permitted by applicable other ordinances. Do we have a?
Sure, our sound ordinance.
Huh?
Our sound ordinance.
I'm afraid that I'm gonna have to ask Mr. Poplick to look that up. To my knowledge, a zoning ordinance goes with the land. Would you?
I'll take a look at that, sir.
All right. And then, in addition, Bill, our parking is not in confirmation, signage. I mean, basically, if you just there's nothing.
No, Mr. Mayor, I'm not disagreeing with you at all on any of those subjects. I was just bringing up that one issue that I remember distinctly from when we were discussing the noise ordinance
Okay.
years
And
back.
that,
And
well,
that's,
you know,
that's
you
the
may be
reason I
right.
brought it up.
The attorneys get their money for making a problem. I think that's all I had. I just wanted Mr. Pavlik to look that up and take a ride down there, because it looks like a hobo jungle. All right, we are moving along. We are at Powell and Jones contract extension. Okay.
Yes, this is on the agenda tonight for your consideration. Powell and Jones was awarded a 3-year contract to do the city's independent audit in 2012. What we're asking is whether or not you would like to renew this and give them a 1-year extension. The approved contract allowed for a 1-year extension on mutual acceptance of the parties. This is an auditor that's independent, that works for you as a city council, and you can either direct to renew the contract with Powell and Jones or solicit for proposals from independent auditors for the city. So at this point, it's up for your consideration.
How has Powell and Jones worked for us, in your opinion, and Ms. Applegate's opinion
Right.
so far?
Should we have a motion so we can discuss?
But yeah, we can do
Motion
it
for
that way,
discussion.
sure. Well, no, I'll motion to approve. That's, you know, if there's a second.
I'll second.
Okay.
Yes, okay.
M-
Discussion?
Mr. Powell is here tonight.
Mhm.
If you had any questions.
Okay.
He's right there.
No, I know.
Say, we got the podium right in
No,
front.
he's just the side of the podium, so I can't see him there, yes. I don't have any,
Come up and say a few
I don't have any
words if you
particular
want.
questions. If Mr. Powell wants to like to come up and say a couple of words, certainly
Yeah.
fine with me.
Okay, it's been a pleasure for our firm to serve the city for 3 years, and it's amazing how fast 3 years go. We've worked very hard to try to give the city very professional, excellent, timely services. And we would love to have it extended a year. And I can say that I believe if you extend it 1 year at the audit fees we have proposed, you would probably get about 4 years audits for the price of 3 from the prior audit firm. So it's in the economic benefit of the city. We work very hard. We do, I think, 23 other cities in the state. So we work very hard at trying to be very on top of the governmental auditing in Florida.
I have, anyone else? I'm not inclined to go with an extension just because of the charter, if nothing else, but we had an FDLE investigation that was 6,000 pages. I didn't read it all, but I read 400 of them. I didn't see anything about that in your audit.
I was aware of it. We read the report or the particulars of it. It was resolved before year end. It did not seem, I guess, appropriate to rehash in the audit.
Well, don't you have to comment on where the money went, where it came from, where it went, protocol? I mean, audit isn't just adding numbers, is it?
No, it's not. And I recall reviewing that report, discussing it with your staff, and I don't recall it having significant financial transactions on the part of the city. But if I had, it's been a time since I've read that. I've definitely reviewed it and discussed it with your staff. And also was aware that changes were made in procedures to keep it from
Do we have a protocol now?
I was made aware that it had to do with vehicles that were impounded.
Right.
And the city's implemented a procedure that takes that out of basically out of the hands of the staff. It's done on an internet-based system.
Okay. Were you aware of the shredded documents?
I'm not sure. I can't
That's all I have.
give that answer.
I have a question too. I think they've provided excellent service. Question I had is, I think you've indicated in the past tools that the city would use, and obviously Aaron will be familiar with this, tools that were necessary or things that we actually at one point I think had to get or put in place that worked with your services. Is everything working in that way? I mean, are there any recommendations for things that they would need in supplying information back to you?
We always work with them. You have an
Software or something?
Yes, you have excellent software. You have the greatest, probably one of the best assets you have is your contractual accountant.
Mhm.
He and his firm do very good work, which makes our work, we can be
Mhm.
very efficient at it. We always try to recommend where necessary. I try to put everything in the report that is directed at the city council. In the course of the audit, the field work, we discuss and work with the staff to say, here's maybe a way to do it better, and have you tried this, and things like that.
I think when it's summarized too, you're both generally here at the same time. In other words, when you're given your report, he's given a report as well.
Yes.
I certainly like that. I think we receive a lot of information at that particular time, as we have in the past. And obviously, again, good information. So, thank you.
Anyone else?
I have a question about the shredded documents. Where are these shredded documents? How do you know that there are documents shredded? Where's your proof?
Read the FDLE report.
And I believe they're holding them as evidence.
Who's holding what as evidence?
From what I understand, they had those bags of shredded documents.
The
Oh,
other,
that was done by our previous department, our previous police department.
I know they went from previous to new, but
Our previous
our police department.
people that used to work here.
No, I don't think everybody's fired, nor do I think they should have been. I'm just asking audit questions. Terry, do you have something to say?
No, I'll go along with doing this for another year, but I think we should prepare ourselves to go out for RFPs on this. And the next year, get ready to go out for RFPs on it, just to satisfy the taxpayers so they know they're getting the best value for their dollar.
The other thing I didn't see is our write-off of water in that audit.
Okay, I know that it was an adjustment that was made by your contractual accountants. We looked at it, we agreed with the adjustment that was made.
Okay.
It was in the audit.
Yeah, it was in the audit.
And
Yes.
it was reflected in the financial statements.
Yeah.
Okay, any more, council?
I would just throw in, as I usually do at this point in time, is that, there's a reason we have Mr. Schatzel, and the reason that we have this company here that does our annual audit. And there's just so much they're gonna do as far as recommending how we do business here. That's not an auditor's job, and an auditor's job is to come in and look over the books and make sure that they comply with the laws. So a lot of the questions we usually wind up shooting at you are better given to Mr. Schatzel. But that's why I went to Tom originally when I opened this up, and I said, how's it working for you? Obviously, I've got a recommendation from staff, right, that you want to extend it, but just.
Well, we think they've done an excellent job.
Yeah.
But they don't work for us, they work for you.
Right.
And the idea is that you need to feel comfortable with what they do because they report directly to you. And We don't tell them what to write. They don't do a report in accordance with our direction. They do it in accordance with the charter and the laws of the state of Florida. So we think they've done a good job. However, sometimes councils feel a need to change. And, we can either do that now or we could do it later. It's up to you. It's at your discretion.
Okay, Terry?
Well, I think we can go along with another year on this myself. It'll give us a little more time, and we don't have to rush sending out the RFPs and trying to get it all done in a fast time frame. We can take our time.
Okay. Well, my last comment is, just as Mr. O'Neill said, charter allows for a 3-year contract. We can't extend it. I tend to go with the charter. Now, I'm going to take it to public. Anyone want to speak? Nobody. No auditors or accountants out there. Okay, I'll bring it back to public. We have a motion to approve. Any more discussion? No. All in favor?
Aye.
Nay.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
See you all later.
Okay, police department vehicles to be declared as surplus. Do I have are there any problems with that, or do I get a motion?
I'd like to have a little more explanation on this particular item. It's got that sort of closing the barn door after the horse is left feeling to it. So I'm just, what is the reason for doing it now? Is it the fact that at least we can collect $1,500 and?
This stems from.
Sure, I understand, yeah.
Investigation that was mentioned. These were the vehicles that were transferred to this company without the process going through.
Mhm.
These vehicles have been sold by this company to third parties out of state. We could go through legal avenues to get these vehicles back at what I estimate a rather large legal expense. I think this is, from a business standpoint, the best way to go. These vehicles, them being gone, not able to determine fully the condition of the vehicles, trying to do a blue book based on the limited information we have, and assuming they were in poor condition, as I'm led to believe by these descriptions, Blue Book won't even give an estimate on the value. So it's my recommendation based on, we could get these vehicles back. We have the titles. This company desperately wants the titles so they can clean up things on their end.
Oh, so we're still holding the titles?
We're still holding the
So
titles.
they're still ours? Okay.
They're still ours. Not quite sure how they
Problem
sold
is
these or
now they're
transferred
gone,
these
yeah.
to other people. But it's in the city's best interest to clean this up, I feel. With these cars out on the road and parts unknown, there potentially could be some issue with the city should somebody get into an accident with these and the lawyers do what they do and we ultimately get brought in because we are the owners of the vehicles. And it would kind of wrap up that portion of that whole FDLE thing and close that portion, or close the chapter on
How about the
that.
towing company? Didn't they break the law by selling cars they didn't have title to?
Well, FDLE looked into it and for whatever reason, they chose to not pursue that.
Kind of interesting, eh?
Hey.
I guarantee if I shred anything, I'll be in the Who Scout. Any other?
How did they sell these cars if we hold the titles?
That I don't know. When discussions was had with them, I recall specifically one of the vehicles was sold to somebody in the state of New York. The other vehicles, I'm not sure where they are, but from what I've been told, they've been sold. How they sold them without titles, I know I wouldn't accept a vehicle without having a title. I don't know.
We're
It
probably
sounds-
sitting in other impound lots around the country. It's probably where they are.
I'm not comfortable with that because it sounds to me like somebody committed fraud.
Oh, no, it's fraud. Again, that would be up to the
You can't get a
attorney.
license plate
No,
without a title.
I'm just saying, there's a number of things that are wrong here, I don't know if any particular fraud taken place. Just to transfer from us to them was wrong on both ends, as far as I'm concerned. and whatever else they might have done once they got a hold of them. Again, I don't know if that's fraud, but it's certainly, I've never heard of selling a vehicle without a title, and that, I don't know how you get it registered. How do you get it put in your name, or whoever they sell it
And
to?
for all I know, they may not even be in whomever these individuals' names are.
Yeah.
They may still be out on the road being driven.
Or they may be junked, we don't know that either,
Well, according to the tow company, they claim to have put a sum of money into getting these cars street-worthy, or I guess in enough of a condition where somebody would want to purchase them. I mean, we can go after and pursue these and pursue all legal alternatives, but I think it's gonna cost us a lot more money than these vehicles are worth.
That's pretty much the bottom line
Yeah,
from what
I'm-
I'm hearing.
Yeah,
I'm looking
and
at
It is
I'm
what
not-
it is.
Yeah,
but
I'm not
from a business
disagreeing with it, I'm
standpoint.
just saying there's a whole,
I agree that there's a whole lot more to this, but unfortunately, I mean, we've got the FDLE investigation, it said what it said. Why it didn't go further, that I don't know. I mean, that would be a question for FDLE.
But
Why?
back to the question before us tonight, what
Yes,
we're
sir.
essentially doing is, we're essentially selling those vehicles now, or authorizing
Yes,
the
sir.
selling of those vehicles now because we're getting some money back.
Yes, sir.
So
That-
that's
what I'm
why
asking,
this
is the
action is
council
on.
declare them a surplus,
Okay.
and then authorize the 3 vehicles be sold and transfer titles in exchange for the $1,500.
Right, okay.
I think it's a long run for short slide if we go the other way. Public, anyone?
Sandra Spaldi, 8207 Old Post Road. When I owned the trailer park years ago, we had a couple of cars that had to be towed. People just left the cars. And I said to the man who had the tow truck, I don't have a title for these. You're taking them, but I have no title. There's something in the state that gives the tow trucks titles for cars that are just left. Now, this was 20 years ago, but I'm sure the state is very slow in changing their laws. So the tow truck company can get some sort of a title for the vehicles that they pick up in tow. My question is how did they get them to tow without us knowing? Just a question, a silly little question, but how did it happen? That we didn't give them the title, if we knew they were towing them. Something's not right here, it smells like stale fish laying on the sand. I don't know, that's my opinion. I guess I'll leave you with that.
I'll make a comment. The transaction, if you want to call it that, occurred without the administration's knowledge. And the cars were bartered, according to what I've heard, for equipment. You're correct. The deal is not what it should be. However, at one point, it pays to close the door on something, and we've got to look at it from that perspective, I believe. We could pursue this. We could get those cars back, but how much are we going to spend to do so? Even at Joe Public's inexpensive rate, I think that we would spend a lot more money than these cars are worth, and so it pays to close the door.
Bargain Joe, as we
It
like to call
definitely does pay to close the door. That wasn't what I asked. I just said, how did they get the cars to start with? It's a lose-lose situation, so just take what you can and let it go.
Well, Ms. Baldy, again, it's usually not a question and answer
I
period.
know, but he
I know, but,
So that
and,
wasn't my fault.
I know, and I will say that, the question indeed was addressed, which is why the city manager called in the FDLE, that the improprieties were seen, and we called the FDLE. So, yes, there were improprieties, and yes, it was addressed, in my mind, as well as it could be. There's not much more you can do than call the FDLE. You can call the FBI, but they don't care. There were improprieties. That's true, and we did address it, or Tom O'Neill did address it at the time, to my knowledge, as best as he could.
Anyone else in the audience? Well, I'll agree with you. There's a time to cut it. We're not gonna get any money back. I have a motion, I believe, to
Do we
approve.
have a motion on this one? No.
Did we ever get a motion?
No, Joe framed one, but we didn't have any. Well, it was.
I would
extended.
entertain
Entertain.
a motion to,
I make a motion to
Make it
declare the
surplus.
above-mentioned police department vehicles as a surplus items in accordance with City Code Article 6, Section 2-384.
And
Second.
I asked to add to that for,
Yeah, right.
and to sell them for the price of $1,500.
And to sell them, and to sell the titles for these cars for the price of $1,500.
Thank you.
Second.
we have a motion, a second, any more discussion?
I find this to be sweeping it under the rug. These vehicles are transferred across state lines. I don't know the law, but something tells me that that opens a big box of problems. I would like to know more about that before we just go off selling cars we don't have, titles that we do have, that somebody else snuck out of here somehow or another. I've never been satisfied with the FDLE investigation. I'll tell them that to their face. I think they dropped the ball on this one. I wasn't happy with the results. I thought they did a haphazard approach to this thing. I've read through all of that, and I'm never satisfied with their answers. I think they just didn't want to be bothered with something that small. But I will not vote for this because I think it's illegal. In one shape or another, there's something very wrong here. And I'm not going to vote to sell these things to sweep this under the carpet or make it right. And I hope we can't get sued because of it somewhere down the line. Or worse.
Any other comments? I agree with Terry that there's a little bit of shadiness, but I think, again, we have to be a little bit wise and cut the door. I will call a vote.
We've had legal advice as well, as indicated by Joe, as to why the move forward is a wise one as well, countering another issue that was outlined very well. So that's why I'm voting yes, or voted yes.
When we worry about legal, we will always find an attorney on each side.
That's right.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Nay.
Nay.
We are up to. Okay, next agenda item, Black Mountain Software Annual Maintenance Agreement.
This item is on the agenda tonight for the purposes of your consideration of renewal of the software annual maintenance agreement. It's used throughout the city in billing and collection, in various areas, even in the police department. The total cost for the software support is $12,937,000. This program and the maintenance thereof has served the city well. It's our staff recommendation that we do approve this matter. So it's up for your consideration.
Council?
Is Frankie here that he has anything additional to say about this?
Yes, he is, and I didn't see him. I apologize. I was looking out.
Oh, here he is, right here. Anything you want to add to
There's
it?
Frankie now?
No, that about sums it up. We haven't had any problems with it, and
What is the price this year compared to last year?
I believe it's pretty similar. I think it went up a few $100s more.
Okay, but it's just
Well,
pretty much right there.
Standard.
Yeah.
yeah, and it's been budgeted for.
Is this software the only one on the market that does what this does?
There are
Or would
others
it-
that it's pretty tailored to our specific workflows. There are others that would require a capital investment. We've had it for a few years, and it works pretty good.
Okay.
I'd like to throw in, again, having worked for a company that had specialized software, and that's what this is. This isn't off-the-shelf software like Microsoft Word or something like that. And after a while, they become very integrated in the way you do business. And to get a new program, almost the new program forces you to change the way you do business. And the learning curve is huge. And the expenses are always very large. So if Black Mountain right now is serving our need, I mean, again, the $12,000 sounds like a lot, but if you look at all the modules it covers, and again, having dealt with it myself, knowing that these type of software maintenance agreements, which include not only maintenance but help desk and upgrades, they're always very expensive. So I find it in line for my personal experience.
You're not able to write one of these for us?
Sure, it might not be.
Take quite a bit of time.
Okay. Everybody on council? Good. Public? Any comment? Bring it back to council. We have a motion.
Motion to approve the renewal and the payment for the Black Mountain Software Annual Maintenance
Did we
Agreement.
already have one?
I'll
Okay, got a second? Motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay. Brings us to the climax, I guess. Okay. I guess all of the council has looked over the police budget to an extent. I want to say, the reason I want us to do this every time is I believe that we're, and I think Steve does, we are in a very dire situation financially. We've been living on red light cameras and CRAs, and I think we have to start slimming down so we don't have a crash fire people. And Mrs. Spalding had a good idea, in my opinion, is to freeze hiring and let natural attrition take it down. And then if we have to go further, we do. But with that said, I'll leave it to council discussion.
You want to start, Terry, or do you want us to start?
I just want to comment on Ms. Spalding's, 8 policemen. If we had 8 policemen back in the day, 7 days a week, that means that there were three shifts per day that these guys never had a day off. So we can't operate on 8 guys. That's just not going to cut it. So I think that's one of the reasons why we had to increase some of our police department. Whether or not it needs to be, 15, I don't know how that works. Maybe Captain, you could explain that. Maybe explain why there are 15 police.
We have 15 officers right now. We have 15 officers right now, and the way the schedule is set up, we have 2 officers and a supervisor on for 12 hours, and then the second group comes on for 12 hours. We have an A and a B cycle, essentially. The problem with cutting manpower is, I'll give you, for example, today, we have 3 officers who were supposed to be there. One of the supervisors, his wife got called to the emergency room, so he had to leave. The second officer is out injured because she got punched in the head last week, so she had to have a CAT scan. So that left 1 officer on the street, so we actually had to call somebody in to come in. So there's your 3 officers. You got to also consider that we have vacations, we have injuries, we have mandated training that they're required to go through the state of Florida. And while we may have 2,500 people, it looks like 15 officers is a lot. You got to remember, you have 40 to 50,000 cars on US 19 coming up and down the street every single day. So it's not really like 15 officers with it's a small agency with not a big population. We do have a lot of people that come in here Monday through Friday, and if you're looking at an accident with injuries, you're gonna have 2 officers there. Then you got a crime that goes out of Walmart, or you have a domestic, and you get in the position where, we have to worry about backup and things like that. So I think any cut to manpower would be a mistake, in my opinion.
I've never had an officer say anything other than that. I find it pretty much a problem I can't solve totally, but we did run it on 8 officers, and I think some of the problems that come are, there's a law that says you only have to have 2 officers. You have to have 2 officers on duty at all time, which we can run with less than 15 officers. And then the argument becomes, well, what if he's out in Dade City taking somebody to jail? We have backup from Newport Richie, we have backup from the sheriff. So it only says we have to have 2 on duty. It doesn't have to be within the city limits. Guys, we have 2,600 people, and I think we're spending, I have to do this math again, but it's
About
somewhere around
$1,000.
$900,
It's $1,000.
a person for police. I know the residents love having the police department. I'm for that. But unless they're gonna take money that we print, we're gonna have to do something to pay them with pesos. I don't know.
Well, I mean, look, they're good, there are probably a lot of points that we'll make tonight. You can make the point that we had 3,200, now we're down to 2,600. But if you take into consideration, and I know Tom will comment on this as well, if you take into consideration the development outlook for Port Richey, we could have X number of more citizens to fill that 500 gap at a clip. Just in getting to a point, and I understand we have the backup and so forth, but, where this started was we were going to be examining because of our financial state, if you would. And we were able to take some information from the annual financial report, and this is where it started to bring about some questions. Now, I'll just go through a couple of things that I had jotted down. And again, I know this is an issue we'll probably cover again, and maybe again after that. And certainly, I think everybody understands the need today to have the police and have security, et cetera, and that's very important. But the statistics are what they are as well, and our city has to look at that. Between 1996 and 06, spending on the police has generally increased. I don't know if this is nationwide or statewide, but it's increased 8.6% each year. That's a fact number. Now, I think what we have to consider is, Mayor, are we offering more, or are the costs for providing the same going up? Well, the costs for providing the same are obviously going up. So how do we manage these rising costs, I think, is what we're all caught up with. And you don't have many choices. You're either going to cut spending, you're either going to raise productivity or re-engineer operations. We've done that because we've had to have, as the chief indicated, we've had to have obviously some re-engineering of the operations to fit what we have. Outside options and sharing and shifting cost, we've not talked about those options, and I don't know what all those options are. As Dale indicated, certainly there is a fill-in when times like today happen, as was indicated. Obviously, we're already considering some of these outside options. But what I do know are the facts, and the facts are that even I know we'll have a PowerPoint perhaps, but the fact is that the expenditure on the particular item, and we're not just talking about police, we're talking about the whole public safety budget. The whole public safety budget in 2005 or 6 was 1.6 million. Now that's 2.5 today. Those numbers came out, not just off the top of my head, they came out of this book. That is, I believe, page 68 covers that figure and is down at the very bottom of the page. As Dale indicated, right now, and looking at the residents, you don't think of cost, but this is roughly about $1,000. There have been articles, you can look up some statistics on some of the best cities and the worst on the return on investment in police spending. I don't think we have to get into that, but I think where we also have to focus is the expenditures related to this particular issue also fall in with our present CRF. And this particular CRF, if you note on this particular history of public safety expenditures going into 2010, being somewhere in the $400,000 range, and now are upwards of $500,000. So, you know, these are real dollars, these are real figures, and when we talk about
What are you
options.
reading from?
I'm reading from the History of Public Safety Expenditures, September 30/05 to 2014. This should also come within the book.
So
I
you are
believe.
working when you're out of here.
Pardon?
You are working on when you're out.
You know, I have a few things, I mean, we have a lot of information, and, you know, look, I don't want to appear like we're anti-police. We are not, but we want to provide this service. I think it's a very important service. And yes, I've been the candidate up here who's chosen to say we need to raise taxes, and I'll say it again. You know, you have these particular dollars that are here, you either have to come up with other solutions, or eventually you're going to have to raise. You know, these are real dollars, and looking at 2010, 436,000, and looking at 2014, 503. You know, how do we manage the rising costs? We've had $1 million in rising costs over 10 years. That's a fact. Now, I'm sure that as we dwell into those numbers, and maybe we have Pete here, you know, where are the costs specifically coming? Because it's not coming from just the salaries. We haven't given them, I don't think you guys have gotten that big of a raise over the time. I wish we could. I wish we could, because, you know, these folks deserve to be well paid for the service they
They
provide.
get a
But-
raise all the time because we have
Well,
that.
let's stay in order.
But, and I'll finish up. You know, again, I mean, that's what we have. We have rising costs, and we have not talked about solutions. This is one of our top three, if not the top, expenditure item. It's certainly up there, and it's a very important service. And as I said, maybe there are some other ideas. We've had folks, the public, talk about some of those. Sandy came up, I'm sure other folks have ideas. And we love to have the police, and I know people enjoy that. I think their response time is fantastic. I live in Sand Pebble, and it's outstanding here. But it's costing us a fortune. It's costing us a fortune, and I really would like to know the $1 million in 10 years. Where's that come from? It's not specifically salaries, it's benefits, et cetera. There's some numbers in there that I just haven't been able to understand.
We're gonna get there. Nancy?
Yes,
you
sir.
have
Thank you.
something to say?
I'm just saying, on the police contract, they get that 3% raise every year.
1%. Three.
I thought it was
Talking about
3.
the PBA contract?
The PBA is 3, I thought.
So it was 1 over
Isn't it
3.
3? Last year, yeah.
3 year?
Yeah, that was 1 year for 3%.
Didn't we do 1% over 3 years? So 1% per year over 3 years?
We elected to do a 1-year contract last year.
Oh, we could look that up too.
In addition, I have a problem with this, driving the car. I think we put more mileage on those fleets going to and from home than we do in the town. And so that might be one place to look. I wanted to, anybody else?
Well,
Into my soap opera.
Well, I mean, could I jump in with just a few things?
What's that?
Could I jump in with a few things?
Oh.
Which, you know, I would agree with you on the cars. I don't know of many businesses outside of governmental that provide cars to go home and come back and pay the gas and all that. But that is in the PBA contract, so that is something.
What is that, forever? Or?
Well, no, it's something to be negotiated when the contract comes back up again this year.
I think we need to
It
look
is
at
up
that.
for negotiation. I heard the figure mentioned by a couple of y'all about, you know, the cost of the police department being, you know, $1,000 per head, which is kind of disingenuous because there's an awful lot of business taxes coming in. There's an awful lot of unhomesteaded property that generate taxes that are going to this to just merely divide the total amount of expenditure by a head count of the city, implying that every one of us out there is paying $1,000 a head is just not true. I'm not. You know, I've got a small house, but I'm just saying.
You're gonna get a bill.
Well, no, we all get a bill. But I mean, and I had one other point to make, was that I couldn't help but notice in going through the budget paper we got here, along with budget papers, we've seen before, and it didn't necessarily jump out at me, but we, for instance, in here on page, in our agenda on page 35, it lists the salaries of each of our dispatchers. We do not have a corresponding page that lists the salaries of all of our police employees, including senior staff. I will go back to last year, and I believe it was in the last year where we hired a captain, and that was not budgeted. I know we've had a captain in the past, but that was not budgeted. I don't know what this captain is making versus the last captain. We promoted 4 of our officers to sergeants, which was also,
What reason was that promotion?
I believe it had to do with,
3% raise.
well, I mean, I can't tell you.
Not that I don't
I'm just saying the
want
reason
them
it
to
was
have
told
the
is that
raise.
we wanted to have sergeants ahead of, that were heading up each portion of the day.
How many
however you want.
sergeants do we have? We got a
4.
chief, and we got you, and then what do we have?
4 sergeants,
4 sergeants.
yeah.
We just promoted 4. We didn't have any before that?
I believe we had 1. The reason we have 4 is because now we have ensured that there's a supervisor on the street 24/7.
Okay. What's he do?
The sergeant, he's also responsible for patrol,
Okay.
so he's one of the 3 who's on duty.
There's 3 on at all times.
3 ideally, and usually we have 2 on. One's usually, whether we're talking injury, school.
How do I see like 6 at an accident at night? I mean, where do they come from?
It wouldn't be Port Ridgey. It might be FHP. Usually on a traffic homicide, FHP responds.
Okay. Go ahead.
So, I mean, that was just it. I mean, I would like to see wages. I specifically like to see wages on senior staff. No offense, but what this captain's making, what the last captain's making, what this chief is making, what the last chief is making, those numbers are not spelled out. They're built into a big old pot, so.
As long as I've been on this council, all the way back to when Steve was a whippersnapper. 06. We have never known any of that.
Yeah.
And I think it would be a nice idea to just, so we could not get here.
Right, but, that being said, I mean, to look at a budget and try to figure out what we ought to do seems kind of going from the wrong direction to me. I mean, we need to see where we want to be, what we want to have, and work back from that, because, budgets are budgets, and as we all know, they're kind of vague, and they're all spread out, and like, well, the piece of paperwork we got here today showing that, a lot of the money in the total police budget comes from Penny for Pasco. Now, we'd still get them.
That's only $400,000.
What's that?
Total Penny for Pasco is $433,000.
Yeah, I'm just saying though, I mean, it's a significant amount, but it's not, it doesn't come out of general revenue, it doesn't come out of the property taxes, the ad valorem taxes you pay. It's our share of the sales tax that everybody pays, but it is not something that impacts our ad valorem.
I understand your point, but if you're in your own house making your budget, you don't say, well, Johnny brought in some from here, and how much we have?
Right.
We have, I believe, what is it? We don't have to go there. This Walmart myth has got to stop. There was an article in the paper that we spend 56% of our time at Walmart. And we've all bought this over the years. I think Phyllis is the only one that was around back when we did the police study. I went to Walmart to see if this is possible. I'm bringing this up because I think that our police budget is bloated because of inefficiency, and I'm going to bring you a report that we did. I'll just read this if you don't mind real quick. Per our conversation last week, you had requested some information regarding the amount of shoplifting apprehensions and the Assist Protect team makes per month. You also requested a breakdown on dollar amount, how often police Law Enforcement, Police of Port Ritchie, is called on scene and referrals to the Division Program CEC. They have come up with that. I'll tell you in just a second. As you recall, Walmart policy is a call for law enforcement only if the dollar value of the item is over $25. I'm sorry, I don't talk to you enough. Or if the party is a repeated offender in the database. The chief suggested we change our prosecution amount to 50, which was not approved. Instead, we countered with a diversion program. With the advent of the CEC referrals, we will not call the police up to the amount of $299 if the subject is a first-time offender. Now, I've got the list of calls to our PD here, and it is from January to October 2015 is 200. I've got the list of calls from our police. Where are they? Here. 585 to 200. Now, of course, this isn't written out, and it says,
What's that period?
they're
Period of
both
time?
January 2015 to October 29, 2015. So we're only off 385 calls. Somebody is padding something. I don't know where to go with this, but in the state, I believe Phil Franco pulled something up from the state, and it doesn't match that either. So I will roll into back in the olden days, around Christ, I think. We had a study on the police department, and the gentleman that did the study was Matrix Group, and I've got that study, and I'll share it with you at some point in the future when this budget comes to maturation. I remember sitting, I think right there where Nancy is, and the gentleman was given a report, and I said, but what do we do about this Walmart problem? He said, you don't have a Walmart problem. You have a police force with 27% too much time on their hands, Walmart included. Now, we've gone full circle. We're back to Walmart's 56%, and that is not true, I'll bet you. But I don't know how maybe Mr. O'Neill wants to check our, this is from our police chief, 585 events. Now, it does say that, well, it includes any fender benders and this and that, but, you know, we have to do that. That's not Walmart because they have a parking lot or whatever. So my thought, in all honesty, is one, we have too many officers, and two, we don't run an efficient police department. Anybody else?
Well, I think too, if you have, and I didn't get to note any of the pages, but just, and again, I know we're just trying to look at some things and try to understand, and I am as well. I noticed one particular line item here, page 69, when we look at the actual, you folks talked about salary expense. And, you know, we go up, what is it, 11 to 2, we go up, you know, a little over $100,000, you know, at a clip there. I think
I'm trying to catch you on that
page 69, when you look at those budgets and proposals and so forth, you know, could we possibly, in looking at salary numbers, and I'm not arguing that people make that people make too much or not. I wish we could pay people more, but where I think we're making a point here is that when we start adding all these things in together, maybe that's equating to this $900,000 over a period of 10 years. Again, I'd just like to understand more about the numbers and, you know, why those, why we've had those increases. And as I mentioned before, initially, 96 to 06, I think this is a nationwide, 8.6, almost 9% increase per year in your police expenditures. Now, I don't know why
That's
that
all over
is.
the country?
That's, I think, all over the country.
Okay, if you would look on your page 69, 1213, $535,000 in salaries and wages.
Mm-hmm.
2015, 16, we're up to 711.
Right.
That's more than 8%.
Yes, yeah, that's what I'm saying. There are, when you add a lot of these numbers in together,
We got a $200 bike bill. I don't care about it, but I've never seen anybody on a bike.
yeah.
Any other comments on these line items? 'Cause I think
the retirement, I mean, you know, government retirement is outrageous. I mean, look at the amounts of money that we're spending for
Well-
government retirement.
what is the
Well, that kind of goes part and parcel with the number of people we have. I mean, health insurance also, if you follow that line item, that goes up, you know, but probably a similar amount.
Well, we have this.
At what time, at what point though do, there's a lot of companies that don't do pensions anymore. I mean, that's a lot of money.
It is, you're gonna have a hard time, hiring police officers
Gonna
without
say,
a
yeah,
pension.
they'll go somewhere else.
No,
That
I
may be
mean,
it.
I'm just throwing it out there.
No, I
Just saying,
understand,
there's a lot of
yeah.
money being spent, is there something else that could be done differently?
Right.
Well, all of those numbers in that proposed column have increased, whether you're talking about the retirement contribution, which obviously mandatory, and you know, there probably are maybe some changes going on around the country. Look, I know a few people work for the federal government. What they're getting today is not what their predecessor had prior. You know, that was an 80% number. Now that's not the case. It's based on a whole other formula
Well, just look
that's
at holiday
utilized.
pay.
Although they contribute more money in their investment plan. So there's been a balance, you know.
And look at the holiday pay.
Yes, holiday
You
pay
know,
too. That's
how
why I
many-
said everything in
how
that
many
column
companies
is
have-
up.
Have reduced holidays for employees.
Well, again, this goes with the contract. This goes
I
with the
know.
negotiations.
That's-
and
Well, actually,
where we find ourselves.
holidays written into our code too, so, number of holidays, what's considered a holiday is part of code. Plus, if council does something like, no, we may have to look at that, but, again, because, I mean, I looked at it one time, and I'll tell you, if you take the city, and you take the state, and you take the county, the city has more holidays than either the state or the county. Now, not a lot, I think one more than each. And then you take other instances where, say, like, Christmas is on a Tuesday, and we vote to give everybody Monday off. And that's all holiday pay and overtime and all kinds of stuff for the folks that are essential employees that have to be here whether it's a holiday or not.
I think
And
the private companies out there give about 4 holidays a year, 4 to 5 holidays tops, no more.
Well, even
Well,
if you're,
Christmas, Thanksgiving, Memorial Day, Independence Day, that's it.
I think even if you're talking about these, I think when you outline it and you look at the three choices, and we're a small city and we want police protection, I don't think anybody here is, you know, flat out suggesting, look, we only have one choice to get rid of. That's not what we're saying. But when you're forced to look at the numbers and the options you have in front of you are cut spending, raise productivity, re-engineer operations, or outside options, sharing and shifting cost, I can tell you, the only way you're ever going to get to a lower number in incorporating is option number 3, when you consider outside options and sharing and shifting costs. That's it. The other two aren't going to work because that's part of the contract, and these numbers will never change. You know, you're not going to change a retirement number. You're not going to change a you know, you only have one other avenue, and that's one that we have not, and I don't know if this, Phyllis is here as well, whether this was part of the study that Dale had talked about, but, you know, look, I think I pay very little to have a great response time, to have, pay low taxes and have both my police and fire, et cetera. I'm getting a bargain, but, you know, again, I think when we start, and I know we're not just picking on the police department, there's a lot of things we have to talk about in these financial challenges for a lot of cities. You know, when you start to look at the numbers, you're just trying to formulate what your options are, and sometimes they're just not good.
Well, let me make a, if you go to page 69, 512, small equipment, we got $2,000.
Where are you at, Dale?
Page 69.
Yes, sir.
Item 512, small equipment.
Oh, yeah.
$2,000. Go down to item 120-512, and we got 20,000 for small equipment. And then, if you go over to page 87, line 512 again, $11,000. So now we have $33,000 on small equipment. I have a clue what it is. Would you like me to comment? I would love you to tell me that.
This is a very difficult item for the city council, and not easy for the staff. You know, we're all here with the best of intentions on trying to provide public safety services at the best possible, most efficient cost that we can. A couple of comments. You know, I would urge you not to do an across-the-board hiring freeze. It could very well result in understaffing, which particularly in police and other areas could result in dangerous situations for our employees. What we can do is explore, and the mayor and I have already had some discussions about some alternatives with regard to some of our operations. The savings could be significant. And another thing that we can do, as I have mentioned to most of you, as our utility becomes more financially self-sufficient, some of the costs that are related to the utility can be taken out of the CRA. That money will become available for additional police services. Every situation is different, and I'm not aware of the study that was done in the past. If the city of Port Richey was out in Levy County in the middle of nowhere, it's not. It would be a different sort of situation. We're in the middle of a much larger area. We have about 85,000 cars a day that travel US 19, and some pretty dangerous people that our police department deals with and our public safety deals with. I personally like the idea of an independent look at the department. And I think the staff, the chief, myself, the captain would welcome that, much as I've heard has been done before. That gives you some help because none of you, including me, are law enforcement professionals. We hire those people. They do a very good job, and they're interested in doing the best that they can too. But we're all interested in the welfare of our employees, our officers, and we have to evaluate the conditions. In this city, I've had some discussions as well with the sheriff and with the Newport Richey Police Chief, Kim Bogart, on our situation, our budget concerns. They're going through the same thing. We all have got to do that. We've all got to take a close look at every department. I like the idea of a study, and I'd like, you know, your authorization to proceed with additional discussions on securing some other cost-efficient measures in the department. That's also welcomed by the chief. The mayor and I have had some pretty detailed discussions on that. So that's my 2 cents. I'd be glad to give you any other comment if you want. You know, I know that, you know, you could spend time on line items. Most of the wages and benefits are set forth in the contract. That's going to become open again this year. And those are all open, but you know, our wages and benefits are not high. And so we're going to have to deal with that because we compete with every other agency around here for officers, and the last thing we want to do is become a training ground for the sheriff's department or other areas such as that. So with that being said, yeah, and that's hard. It's hard on the agency. You want to be able to keep people. And you know, people learn the city, they learn the neighbors, and they learn the area, and you want to be able to do that. If we can take an independent look at this, and the council can authorize us to continue our efforts to implement some cost-saving measures, I believe those will be significant and they will make a difference. So with that, you know, we're, you know, happy to take your direction.
I think that's important because I noticed in dispatch and looking through this, we had a long-term employee of 14 years, and I think the next closest person was maybe 6 years. But I'll just say real quick that, look, police departments today have to develop a new kind of bottom line, and one that resonates with the community, and that's really what why we're talking about this issue, because the cost has just increased greatly. Thank you.
Well, I'm all for a study,
Yeah.
to dig into it, and I think we can make a resolution to approve that right now.
Why don't we do this? Why don't I I'll get Tammy to make a copy of that study, and you read it over, and then decide if you want that company, another company. I don't know if we want another look or the
Okay.
same. So I'll get that over tomorrow, get them passed out to you. I'm gonna make a few more comments. One, I think renegotiating that contract is paramount. I saw 55,000 in fuel we use, the cars. Mayor Abbott once wanted us to put in blackberry things, so we could just track how many miles, or where are they going, ducking them.
We do have that, just for your information. Every car has a
Can we tell
GPS.
I asked Tammy for obviously, she wouldn't want to give me the officers' numbers, but I'd like to know the distance between here and where they live. Because I know some live in Port Spring Hill.
We can provide you that information.
Okay. So Tammy, put that down, you can provide me something. I think we should freeze these salaries until we get something that we know what we're doing with. I noticed the advertising budget in here is, I don't know how many more we're gonna get, but ICE is a better lookout. Look at our old study. I think there's no way we're not gonna be able to, or that we're gonna keep up with as many officers as we have. We had a damn good department, we still have a good department, but I don't think we have to have 3 officers on it all the time. The only requirement is that we have 2, and that is, there's your, where you can save it. But I want, in the end, I want the police and every other department out of that CRA budget. And you imagine what we could have done in the last 10 years, Steve? Did somebody?
Well, it's going to be a concerted effort. You're not going to be able to fix it by one solution. It's going to, you're going to have to deal with the union. I think some changes are going to have to be made there, whether they be taking cars home and gas, and those cars are not cheap either. But that doesn't really fix the major problem we're looking at. I think we should start with Pete Schatzel. I think we need to have a very tight look at this whole police budget, see where we're spending money. He can analyze it, he can split it apart, find out where and how we're spending the biggest dollars there, and dissect it. I don't know if we can freeze the salaries. I would imagine our contract keeps us from doing that.
Well, we could, excuse me, I don't mean to interrupt, but we could freeze hiring, but I agree, salaries, we can't, that's my contract.
Period.
Because,
don't go up.
yeah, I'm just saying, salaries are frozen, in fact, when we come to a contract resolution.
We're not talking about salaries, hiring. Period.
For
We can spend it, and Terry, you got interrupted, I apologize.
What road, US 19, is that a city road, or is that a county road, or is it a highway?
We patrol it.
You patrol it. Okay, but if there's an accident, we respond. Is that not something that the state police should be doing?
Well, there are other agencies that will not respond, and they'll make Florida Highway Patrol do it. But I think it's one of the services that we do provide. If you're gonna wait for FHP to come to an accident, you may be waiting 3 hours.
Where's the sheriff?
Sheriff's doesn't
That's his
handle it.
road, right?
It would be Florida Highway Patrol.
so I thought
What
it
is
should be a
it?
state
Yeah, being a
road.
state road, it'd be Florida Highway Patrol, but as,
US 19 isn't the sheriff?
not state road, no. That's not, they don't do accident
I
investigation.
didn't know.
Yeah, yeah.
Pasco County does not do accidents. So again, it's a service that we do provide. We can have somebody there in 3 minutes and handle it, or citizens can wait for FHP and you're on your own.
I'm-
Because they're short manpower also.
I might add to that, yeah, if you actually look at the number of FHP cars there are around the state, that's amazingly little. And even in our own district here, which is Tampa Bay area. Point being, though, is not only is our citizens, which if there's an accident on 19, there's probably a better than chance than not that it's not one of our
One
citizens.
of them found me, I can tell you.
Yeah, well, you know, but my only point being is that not only is the inconvenience of potentially waiting 3 hours, there's also the problem of if it takes, and the FHP can't take that long. They can take a long, long time. And it is also the possibility of monstrous backups because FHP isn't coming out to handle the accident, and there everybody is, and everything's just sitting in the damn road and waiting for HHP to show up.
I don't think anything that I've said would change with that. 2 officers on patrol versus 3. We're gonna have our guys there. We're not gonna fire anybody. I don't like that idea. Stopping the hiring, to me, is a way to get back to where we were. I'll get you all the studies, look what they had to say, and I think, no, Nancy was too young too. The freeze, I think, is the only thing we can do right now, unless you want more. We have 15 officers for 2,600 people. So, Terry, Nancy?
First of all, the chief is not gonna hire anybody without putting it in the budget. And I don't think he has any other intentions of hiring anybody. And the next budget that's coming up, if he has intentions, which I doubt, but if he does, I don't see it's necessary to have a hiring freeze, because they've always come to the council to ask that permission first.
I'm not going to hire anybody.
That's correct. I just want to make a very brief mention. The chief would have been here tonight, but he got injured, and he wasn't able to attend. He had to actually go to the emergency room. So the budget will be adhered to, just for information purposes. The number of positions in the police department that I know of has remained constant for the last 4 years.
Yeah.
And so we have the same number. We had an explanation up on there, but it's kind of at this point past that point in the discussion. The hiring freeze is difficult because, you know, we may face a situation where it's not like exactly they're non-essential employees, so they are essential employees. So in any event, you may want to get this study reviewed and maybe possibly get another look at this from an independent agency. I think we all would welcome that before you make any hard and fast decisions on staffing levels.
Well, Tom, I just don't believe that, you know, it's gonna become an emergency hire for a police officer. We're just gonna pluck one out at some point. I think you can call, if we freeze hiring, you can call emergency council meeting. We need to hire somebody. No problem, I'll be there. I just think when one department outweighs the entire ad valorem, you have to start adjusting. And I don't know where to adjust. I do not, capital N-O-T, want to get rid of the police department. But we have to start thinking that in June, you're gonna have to make some decisions. We just don't have that money unless you're hiding some. I don't know where we're gonna pay for this kind of thing. I'm gonna take it to public.
How much is this study going to cost, and who's going to perform it?
I don't know.
My point is, I'll give you the study. It was Matrix Group, and I think it was $25,000. What's that?
I think we could get some assistance from the League of Cities that would possibly help. on that, to get a survey and get something done less expensively. I wouldn't think we'd need to spend anywhere close to that amount of money. I don't know what was done in the past.
You know what you get with League of Cities, this is my opinion because it's political. You get commiseration, not any direction. And I want somebody professional to tell us, what are we not doing and how would you do it right? And maybe the old study will tell us that.
We could solicit proposals to do just that. I agree, I'd love to have that.
Okay?
Yeah.
Call me, remind me tomorrow. Just that far from Alzheimer's. Okay, we ready to go to public? Mrs. Brown?
Thomas Brown, 7436 Candlelight Court. Police officers are scheduled to work a 12-hour day. Do they work 36 or 48 hours a week?
I think that gentleman better answer that.
It's 80 hours every 2 weeks.
Anyone?
Just real quickly, what constitutes overtime?
What's that?
What constitutes overtime?
It would be per the union contract, so it'd be anything over 40 hours in a given week.
Over anything over 40 in a given week, okay.
Reverend Spalding?
80 hours every 2 weeks. Does that mean 1 week they could work 50 and the other week they could work 30? Where they get extra $10? Just a question. You don't have to answer me. The council could ask it if they're interested. All right, do I have to give my address again? 8207 Old Post Road. I'm the only one who gives it up here. Phyllis, do you remember when you were on council? Dale was on council. You had a little city on the river, right? How did you run it? You ran it as a little city. You know what your problem is? You take a little city, and I'm gonna tell you again, and you run it as a big city, and we don't have the money. It's not there. So instead of changing it and running it as a little city with small steps and try to work it in a budget with what we could afford, we did fine for many years. True? We had our police department, we had our fire department. I don't remember anybody getting killed in a fire. I don't remember anybody wasn't answered with the police in 3 minutes either. We don't have a large city. And it's nice spending $25,000 on a study, yeah, and this and that. Why don't you first think about running it as a small city? Now, as far as our police go, isn't it negotiated by our city attorney, their contract?
There's generally a team of us who negotiate the
Okay.
contract.
And then you bring the contract here to the council, and do they have time to have a workshop on it? Or do they just agree to it? All right, I'm asking because I've been here many times when it was just passed through and agreed. I don't remember a workshop. I might be wrong. There were a couple of years here I was in seminary and I didn't come. But something's not right here. We need our police department, yes. We need our fire department, yes. But we don't need it ran as a big city. We're a little city on the river. Let's get back to being a little city, live within our means. If you can't afford steak tonight, eat a hamburger. You got it? You can't eat steak and lobster every night when you only have money for a hamburger and tuna fish. I'll leave you with that.
You know,
Does that mean you don't want the SWAT team?
I don't want this one too.
Anyone else in the?
Hamburgers and tuna fish aren't cheap either anymore.
No, but they're not as expensive as steak and lobster. You're not supposed to talk to me.
Miss,
I
yeah,
know, I know.
maintain our order. Miss
I'm out of
Gray.
order.
Phyllis Gray, 8141 Aquila. Yes, we lived through that survey report, whatever you want to call it, back in 2000. I don't remember exactly when it was. It was a good report. Dr. Dale, you have it?
I do.
I probably have my copy at home as well. I think before you go out and spend money for a new report, perhaps you should circulate it to the council members now and let them look at what was done 8, 10
That's
years
what we're
ago,
doing.
whatever it
Yeah,
was,
that was
however
the
many years it
consensus,
was.
right?
It was a very good report. Remember, we sat through it. It was absolutely excellent. Did we get rid of our police department? No, we did not.
No?
Did they recommend that we get rid of our police department? No, they did not. We even invited the sheriff, if you remember. It was Bob White. And Sheriff White and somebody, deputy, sat and came and talked to council, and they told council and the people what the sheriff would do. It went to the people for a vote. The people voted it down. We wanted our police department. And then we started up again, all the turmoil, this, that, the other thing. We had a second vote of the people, and we turned it down a second time, so that the people want to have a police department. Now, if you remember, Dr. Dale, we used to get at our, in our packets for council, we used to get a report of the police activity. And yes, it was printed on a whole bunch of pages, but it was an excellent report because it showed exactly what the police department was doing every day. Would that not be something to consider so that those members of council who were not on council, you and I were, we knew exactly what was going on? And yes, we have Walmart. I questioned Walmart many, many years ago, and they are a business. They only pay whatever this little tax is. It's not like they do $1 million a day, so we get a large portion of that $1 million a day, or 7% sales tax. No, we get a little teensy bit of Walmart, but they are a business. They bring people into the city. Most of the people, okay, we're not crazy about, but they bring business in. And they need to have whatever protection that our police department can give them, just like any other business.
I'm gonna let you have another minute, please.
Just to kind of sum up, before you do anything, please, Dale, would you give your copy to the city clerk so that she can make copies for those members of council and yourself to refresh your memory on what that company did, however many years ago that it was.
That was the plan, Phyllis. If you remember, we saved a lot of money by following what we weren't doing right.
Exactly.
This is not to get rid of the police, this is to run it
It was to make it
efficiently.
more efficiently, yes, of course. But you have to keep in mind, we are a very small city. A lot of people, including myself, live here because we have a police department. Don't want to live in the county. We wanted to live here in Port Ritchie. We want to keep our police, and the people support that. Why is it that San Pebble, that pays more taxes than everybody else in the whole city combined, you don't see anybody from San Pebble here talking about, you better do something about the police department? And we don't call
I
the police.
understand that, Phyllis, but there are, the people in San Pebble's income is higher. There are a lot of people who don't have the money to pay more taxes. And it's my responsibility, I think, to run the most efficient government we can, spend the least amount of dollars for the best services.
Absolutely.
And that's all we're doing.
Absolutely, and I applaud you for that. I do. I'm not faulting you. I just think that council has now, in this present day, should go back however many years ago, look at that, then decide, and that company may still be around.
I'm
Mr.
gonna
O'Neill
give
may
them
be
all
able to.
that, let them read it,
Right.
digest it. We're not making, the reason we're doing what we're doing is to be ready for June, April,
for the budget.
and I gotta get you now.
Exactly.
As much as I love
Could we
you,
ask her
you're
a
out.
question if she, well, I guess maybe we can.
I'm sorry?
I was gonna say, since she was part of that study, whether or not she could field a question
Oh, sure.
regarding,
I'm not, draconian.
because we're going to get what you've already reviewed.
Right.
And again, I just go back to the point, I think if that's our first step, and I would agree, the second step, and I know Terry mentioned this, and I think it's very important, and it's getting lost in the discussion as well, is having Pete Schatzel. I have made some requests, and I have gotten some information from the staff regarding some of those numbers. But again, I think he's the one to be able to interpret those numbers. Because Phyllis, we're talking about almost $1 million in a 10-year period. So to me, we could look at gas, we could look at this, we could look at gas. We're never going to get to the real hardcore numbers. And I keep going back to, okay, you got the cut spending, but the spending has outpaced, where we're at. How we could do with 8 and then have to do with 15, et cetera, I don't have all those answers. Raising productivity, re-engineering operations. In other words, I think we're past the first two. I don't know what will be in that study, but I'm anxious to read it, because as you and Dale indicated, that did help point. But were there any pointers as well? And I don't say this to say, oh, okay, get rid of this and go with county services. But when we consider option number 3, and we're talking about outside options, sharing and shifting costs, was any of that talked about? Because I was told it was, going back to a study where they had asked if you're going, you could basically cut your costs in half if you are providing an outside or sharing of services in some capacity. I don't know how that works, but as I said, police departments today are having to develop a new kind of bottom line. Let's face it, one thing we have not mentioned, Dunedin. There are several. I won't name them all. I had a list, and I don't want to waste time trying to fish through it. There are several that had faced questions like that.
Absolutely.
And yes, they were bigger cities, St. Pete, Dunedin, there's several. Was any of that part of the study as well to say, look, these are this is starting to be worked on throughout the country, the state of Florida maybe, obviously maybe the country. When we talk about a 9% figure, other people have to be talking about it too. But I guess my question is, and I'm stuck on number 3 because ideally I think we'll waste a lot of time going through trying to, long time ago we told every department cut 10%. They couldn't cut 3%. How are we going to get them to cut 10? We'd get right to option 3. Was any of that part of this study that outlined what those costs might have been if you're talking about sharing and shifting costs? And I'm not saying this is what my intent would be, but as part of the analysis, I would certainly like to see it and see those numbers. Is that part of that?
Well, I think so, and I think, Dr. Dale, if you would make copies or
I'll
give
tell
it
you
to the
what,
city
if
clerk to make copies for
everybody's
everybody.
going my way-
I
excuse-
think
I'm
I still have my own. It was an excellent study. I mean, the mayor can
So that may have been
attest to
covered
that.
as well in part of the analysis.
They covered everything.
Okay.
And I think just for 1 second, you had mentioned that it was $25,000 it cost.
I thought that,
I remember
that's-
it was an odd figure, and I almost want to say 19, but then I'm thinking,
I was
ooh,
thinking
was it
17
29?
also.
But I think it was something in there.
We can look that
No,
up.
it really was, but, it was well worth it. It was well worth the money. It
Yeah.
really was.
Well, it's
It
an
was-
important issue, and we're not saying cut police. We're looking
Drop
at
by my house without
Right.
all of
getting
these
that
options
sunshine.
together.
If you guys can drop by my house, I printed up some, but I didn't know how you'd receive them, so I didn't bring them. I've got enough to give all 4 of you.
Right.
No, I think it'd
I
be,
have it at home, too.
just give it to Tom and he can have it
Yeah,
passed along.
certainly.
I think
Have
that
it
would be
delivered, he'll have it delivered to the house.
Or just,
I'll bring it
I'll take it
over after
emailed. I
this.
mean, I don't need it delivered. I mean,
Okay.
email is fine with me.
Okay.
Oh, you're gonna have to scan it and email it. It's just.
He'd have to, so they scan stuff all the time.
I'm
This
trying
is
to
a
cut
very,
calls.
this is very.
It is gonna
technical.
be
It is- it
gas to
does
get
cut
to the
costs.
house.
It's cheaper.
I already printed it for you.
May I just make one more point? And I think it might be the city of Dunedin, I'm not sure.
Yeah, what?
Shall I go back and look? They had their own police force. They gave it up,
Yes.
gave it up. Went to the county, Pinellas. They took it back.
Okay.
Good night, everyone.
Night. Okay, any more in the public?
On another subject, you never addressed the councils, specifically, Steve asked about the Harbor Isle Water Project.
Yeah, go to the microphone, please. State your name and address.
Phil Franco, 5021 Waterside Drive. I wanted to address the comment you made, not the
Yes.
police department. And please, I hope the staff and the city manager takes this the way I want to present it, to hopefully turn the city in a different direction. Our county commissioner, Jack, has a committee of unlicensed contractors. I'm frequently called on to give them information. As you know, I'm in the insurance industry. I have access to databases that not a lot of people have. It's all legitimate. I was asked to look at the contractors at Harbor Isle. I found out that there's a main contractor, a subcontractor, and a third subcontractor. The third subcontractor has no insurance and no professional license. I checked with our broker for the city, and I found out that we do in fact subscribe to best practices. I also, hopefully, the broker for the second in line sent you the insurance accord for the second company. What I'm trying to say to you is, the city manager and the assistant city manager made the comment that they checked with Sunbiz on the contract. All that gives you is that he has a company. You have to check further than that for the insurance, and there is none. And here's the real fault that we had. We now know that he doesn't have insurance, so the second guy in line took magnetic signs and put it on the third in line with no insurance to make it look like he is now a sub. In order for him to have his workers' comp for the third party, they have to be an employee. W-2, taxes, they're not doing that. The statute for the workman's comp reads very clearly that if you hire a subcontractor that has insurance and midway into the project, he loses his insurance, he in effect can go on your policy. It doesn't mean you can assign your policy to someone else. We are at great risk at this city. I give the name of 100 plaintiffs' attorneys that would love to sue this city. It's like an easy case. Can I give the city clerk the information on the three contractors? It
Please
seems like
do, sir.
nobody was able to get this, but it's easily available. And I'm saying this in all good faith. We are at great risk by having an unlicensed contractor work. Besides that, the place is a mess. Thank you.
Well, Tom, I think we ought to call all those three contractors in and tell them, sit them down in your office and ask a lot of questions.
I did that today out in the field. I'll have the written assurances tomorrow before they come back on the job and do any work.
The assurances that you're getting are not correct.
Hold on, I'm gonna allow this. Go
The
ahead.
assurances you're getting are not correct. Please check with our risk officer, our broker, and please talk to the broker of the second line. You'll find out that he cannot guarantee the workman's comp with somebody that doesn't have it. He has to make them employees. It's that simple. I've been doing this for a lot of years, Tom.
I'll do my best to do that.
Thank you. And I want to protect the city. You're not at fault. I'm hopefully giving you information that you might not have been aware of.
Appreciate that.
Okay, really?
Thank you.
Everybody as tired as I am?
I have one
Okay.
thing I have to talk to you
Go
about.
ahead.
I promised Jack Mariano I would. I had a conversation with Jack Mariano. The NPO, we're not attending. We've gone down this road a couple times, so it is my suggestion that each one of us go each month. So that's 5 people, so you
I'm sorry,
go
Nancy, go do one.
NPO meeting. So it's 5 people, it's 2 days out of the year. Yes, we're gonna have to take vacation days, sorry. And that's just what the suggestion was. That Jack thinks that, you know, the other side of the town, the other side is really, you know, getting everything, and we're getting nothing over here. So, I'll go first, but I need everybody else to go. Just let me know.
The MPO meetings.
What is it?
Third Thursday of the month or something.
Jack had talked to me at his fundraiser about that, and I told him I would do my best to attend when I could, so.
Well, we don't have to all go at once. What we could do is we could have a system where one of us goes, brings back the information to the rest of the council. The next person that goes does the same, and so on and so forth. This way, we're not taking off 12 days a year. Some of us don't even have that much vacation time. So, that's just my thought.
You said Jack wanted to go with you.
Pardon?
You had talked to Jack.
Jack had approached me, his fundraiser, and asked me if I would not attend the next one. So I may take that one for you,
All right.
Nancy.
I'll take that one with you because it approached me too. So
Okay.
I'll drive you, darling.
Are we clear, or I have not had any confirmation on whether we're going to pay Pete Schatzel to come in or not?
I think that everything that can help is I don't have a motion.
Can I ask, I think I heard you want a Pete Schatzel in, and we can ask and try and schedule that at the earliest possible date. Can you please do that, Aaron? So you want to see him in the near future, is that correct?
As soon as possible.
Okay. The other things, before we adjourn, if I could just ask to make sure I'm clear, you want to see a report on the police activity included in your
I
packet?
would like to see,
You always get one usually.
Okay.
yeah, that as well, but I find it impossible to believe that Walmart generates out of a computer and we generate, and we're not even within 100, we're 382 arrests apart. That seems to me impossible.
We'll give you the
Maybe
information.
Walmart's impossible, but give me from October 1st to September 1st, 2015. I've got our original ones that Tammy told them, sent them to me, and maybe they're right. Maybe Walmart's wrong. I don't know.
And we'll also send you a routine report included in the council packet at every council meeting. Is that what everybody would like to see?
That's what we used to get, so
Okay.
yeah, I
We
think we
used to
should.
get
yeah.
them, I don't,
Yeah.
but this.
It might have been change of guard sort of thing. I don't know.
And I think just as a last question, you want to see the wages of the senior staff at the police department?
I personally would like to see the wages of everybody, but mostly senior staff. I just soon see the wages of the senior staff for the entire city, to be perfectly honest with you.
Okay, we have that readily available.
You know, in total, not in, you know, so much from this fund and so much from that fund and so much here or there. Just
Yes, we have a spreadsheet on that
Okay,
readily
fine.
available.
I wanted to add one more thing on the actual subject at hand, for the agenda item that we're actually still on, and that was in answer to Ms. Spalding's question, have we ever had a workshop on the contract of the police? We don't have contract negotiations in open. That usually Joe and probably Tom, and I don't know who else, maybe Aaron, negotiates with the PBA. They come up with tentative agreements. Then they come back to us, and we have a shade meeting. We have an executive meeting that's not open to the public. And this is all according to state law. And if we don't agree, then it goes back, and then it comes back again. And I would agree, there's been a couple of times in the past where I didn't think that we as council really were given enough time, given the date that the contract was up. So it should happen further in advance of that. Negotiations should happen, but that's the way it works, if I'm not correct.
I'm with you.
You are correct, sir.
And that's the same idea we're working right now.
Right.
Get ahead of the game. Oh, wait, did I miss somebody? Phyllis. Oh, you want a double dip?
You more than a double dip now, Phyllis. You already had a triple dip, man. That ice cream cone's gonna tip
Double
over.
dipping. Phyllis Gray, 8141 Aquila. You're going to do the police report, and that will be in your packet, so that the city manager's already said that. But again, I ask you to remember back when we sat on council, we used to get a report from every department head
That
as
is
to what
exactly
happened, as to what happened in the 2-week period prior, from then until the council meeting that night. And it was a very good report because it told council exactly what was happening. Because remember, we used to go around to the different department heads, and you would say to the fire chief, you know, we'd have your report, of course, but then you'd go to Public Works. Mrs. Stewart, do you have anything to report? Nothing to report. Pat, I'm not sticking on you, I'm just saying. And then we'd go around to the other departments. But when we got something in our packet, it told us exactly what the departments were doing. So you're looking for what are each of the departments doing? Well, here, this is what the people that we employ serving the people of Port Ritchie, this is what they're doing. And that might be something else you might consider.
That is a very good idea.
Thank you.
Tom, as I understand accrual accounting, we can go day to day and know where we are on the budget.
Yes.
What I would like to see, and I asked Jocelyn, she didn't think, I don't know if I expressed myself correctly. Wouldn't it be nice for us to know, since we overspent the budget $300,000, that each month or every quarter where we are we overspending, are we under? I know you said we're not gonna spend as much, but
Yes.
it'd be nice to see it in writing.
As a matter of fact, I had asked Aaron today to give me a printout, an up-to-date printout. I have that. We could give you that on a monthly basis. Would you like to see it on that kind of routine? You know, in other words, a monthly?
Sure. I think that's enough.
Well, I would only add at this point that it gets back to the way when we first discussions I had with Pete Schatzel about how he compiled the reports that he presents to us about accounting, a special line that showed, basically took the ad valorem, which we received all in January essentially, and break it into 12 pieces so we could tell actually how we're doing in the year. Because right now, you take the total ad valorem and it's January. How do we look against budget? You know, I mean, we look pretty good right now. Well, we still got three quarters to go. You know, so again, you know, it's numbers can be deceiving, and
Certainly, it's a
What?
case. With the budget printout, if it's done on a monthly basis, many of our payments are once per year, twice per year,
Yeah,
and sometimes
right.
quarterly, so the numbers can look skewed.
Yeah, and that's budgets in general, yeah, absolutely. So do we all feel you've got the direction you need on this particular item right now?
Yes, sir.
I got one last thing to say.
What a surprise.
Look on that wall. 17 foot, you guys missed that. 17 full-time positions, one part-time, dispatch, 4 dispatch. Do I have to beg for a hiring freeze for 2 weeks? How's that? I have to beg? Okay.
Well, I think you basically said nobody else coming on. There's no hiring. I'm not sure what you said.
I said that I would like to see a hiring freeze. We're starting from, this is ground zero. We're at 17. If we're going higher than that,
No.
well then, give me that back.
Several of those positions are not filled.
Huh?
Several of those positions are not filled.
Maybe that's the idea.
No.
We made it on 8. Now we got 17. I don't know that we need 17. Steve, maybe we have time to look at it. Bill, Terry, Nancy, and look at the thing. How was it run? How did we run it back then? How did it run on 8 people? As opposed to getting to 17 and then saying, we are out of money. We're gonna have to let you go. I do not like firing people. I don't like to be hard. But we are, you know where we are. Nobody wants to give me that?
You said you had a discussion with Pete Schatzel?
No, I'm saying going way back to when Pete Schatzel first started giving some of his reports to us. No, I've not had any personal discussion with Pete Schatzel outside of council chambers. Yeah. Again, I'm reluctant to go for firing freeze right at this moment. You know, with what we are doing right now, I understand where you're coming from. I truly do. But, you know, things do change. I don't know, you know, the good old days, I'm not sure exactly when those were.
They were always yesterday.
Yeah, they were always in the past, I'm sure of that, yeah.
I'm sure in
Yeah.
2 weeks, we're not gonna need.
All I'm saying is that this city is not the city it was 15 years ago. And there is a lot of blight and decay. There's a lot of homes in this city that are now filled with renters who cause a lot more trouble than the old-time homeowners who had been there for many, many years. And
I'm sorry to interrupt you,
Go
but
ahead.
why don't we just have a request that the police department not hire anybody without putting a freeze on, just the courtesy of coming to council before they would consider
I
doing?
would accept that motion. Is that a motion?
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
No.
All right, we're good. As I understand it, the motion is no hiring by the police department unless brought before council.
Yeah.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It's been fun, but
I say motion to adjourn.
Second.
I'd say that's not debatable. Good night, everybody.